For that reason, I'm joined by Mr. Mwiti Mureithi, who is a security researcher. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
First of all, help me understand this, because I understand you've done a great detail of research on terrorism. You've even authored books on terrorism. What goes on inside a terrorist's mind to the extent that he would go somewhere to blow himself up? What goes on in their minds?
First and foremost, terrorism, it's a disease like any other disease, any other mental disease. Because you find terrorism is an act of finding really a source of a fallback. Because basically you find these are people that would want to maybe show the world that they are doing whatever they are doing for the right cause. And unlike times in memorial when they had issues, real issues to maybe coerce the government to do, today, unlike the past, they don't have actually the cause, for the lack of a better word, because you find they are motivated by different things. For instance, the particular risk that we are facing as a country, many would want to put it that it is as a result of our soldiers being in Somalia. But basically, even before they were in Somalia, we had some attacks on our borders, and which were crossing over to our country. So when you try to actually find the reason as to why they're doing whatever they're doing, you get to understand that there are more reasons than it meets the eye. It's just a criminal act like any other.
So when we look, when we talk about terror, Mr. Mwiti, and the morphing face of terror, prior to recent times, we've always seen cases whereby almost certain that whenever you hear of a terrorist attack, you will find somebody of the Somali descent. When you hear of a terrorist attack, you'll find somebody of a Somali descent. And we over the recent times, we have actually come to find that the face of terror is now morphing. We're actually seeing Kenyan young men and women of Kenyan descent getting into this war on terror and actually becoming terrorists. Whereas the whole world, Kenya included, is marching on in the sustained war on terror, the terrorists change their tack, and almost often they get to beat us. So where are we missing it?
Yeah, to begin, there's a rhetoric that is being peddled on the social media and now the mainstream media. It's unfortunate that people would want to profile terrorists through race, maybe religion or tribe. Honestly, there's no way you can profile a terrorist and narrow down them to race, tribe, or religion. At this day and age, like you said, we have more better ways of narrowing down to that particular criminal. We have the people that, you see now, terrorism has been new to us as Kenyans, but we've had people who have experienced terrorism before. And to them, they've taken measures more than we're doing today. And there's this fact that the only way and the best way to profile a human being is through human behaviors. We have actually 4 pillars of observable, non-communicable behaviors. They're actually, every human being must fall under the 4 of them. We have individual behavior. This is how human beings are assessed. And in individual behavior, we have 4 components that makes up an individual behavior, which means every human being, you and me, must lie between the 4. These are submissiveness, dominance. You're either dominant, or you're either submissive, or you're either comfortable or uncomfortable. Every human being must fall under those 4. So secondly, we have group dynamics. This is how human beings relate in a group of people. You're either an introvert, an extrovert, you want to keep peace, some distance, even HVI, that is high value individual. And these are things you can see and tell from afar. if you're keen or you know what you're looking for. Then we have collective mood. This is how now what we call the positive and negative atmospherics. This is a general place of the general mood of a place. You go somewhere and you have that intuition. You've come out, probably you've heard yourself say, I have a bad feeling about this place. That's a collective mood. It's a sequence or an addition of so many other factors that will give you an outlook of how a place is. And then we have now the geographics. These are habitual areas. These are like churches. We have anchor points. We have natural lines of drift. These are escape routes. For instance, you're somewhere, for instance now for the example of the Dusit Hotel, anchor points or habitual lines of drift are places where you can have the exits and places. And further, that has been divided, the individual behaviors has been divided into 6 domains. Now, if you use these 6 domains, you narrow down to now that particular person you're looking for. This is not bound by either now what race or stuff, because we have some studies that have been made on how humans behave to the core. For instance, I'll give you an example of the 6 of them. We have proxemics. This is a study of the human bubble, how people relate on their spaces. Now, this gives you the high value individual. If someone of high value comes to a place, how people react towards them. Now, you can tell from afar this person is a high value person. Then we have kinesics. These are body language. These are things you can see. You can actually tell. You don't have to wait to see a weapon to know that someone is a threat to you.
So, Mr. Mwiti, if I'm getting you correctly here, it looks like we are actually following the wrong direction, because it's not about the people.
Yes.
It's about somebody who happens to be a terrorist who gets their solace in a particular religion. It doesn't necessarily mean that all people in a certain religion can be linked to terrorism.
Yeah, sure. You see, unfortunately, you won't be having much of an publicity if you are a terrorist and you claim to be a Christian. That's the most unfortunate thing. And we see, because let me not be quoted on that, I don't know how the Muslim religion is from the inside, but as maybe you've been told, or maybe you've heard or read, the rhetoric that if you kill, you're given 72 virgins.
Yeah.
You see, now I am not in a position to verify how true that is, but I know one thing. Religion has been used as a tool for people to find solace in order to attack. Because we've seen even Muslims being attacked. At Dusit, we saw some Muslims who were killed indiscriminately. What does that mean? These people are criminals like any other, out for a purpose.
All right, Mr. Mwiti, for the interest of time, let us try to demystify radicalization.
Yeah.
There are the people who say that young people in Kenya get into radicalization because of joblessness. Is that a worthy reason?
Actually, you can't actually say that is the reason. Because we've seen, like for instance, Garissa attack. These are students, this was a campus student who was a lawyer. So for the lack, you can't actually narrow it down to lack of a job. We have so many other self-employed people, guys in Kenya, that are working themselves to their livelihood. So that would be the lamest excuse one could ever give, because why? For if you are a suicide bomber, how are you supposed to even benefit from the money that you'll get? Exactly, you get me?
I get it.
So if being jobless is not a cause for you to be a terrorist.
Yes.
Now,
others might argue that looking at our neighboring countries, Tanzania, Uganda, even South Sudan, they would argue that Kenya has actually become a soft spot for terrorists. So the question would be, as a researcher, somebody who has done extensive research when it comes to matters to do with terrorism, what are they doing differently that we are not doing?
I'll give you what's happening today. The only way you can fight terrorism, and now the world is getting to the fact, you cannot fight terrorism by using guns. You need to educate your people. The only way you can beat terrorism is by you impacting on the people. For instance, I'll give you an example. Every Kenyan who has ever gone to class 1, including you and me, knows how to cross a road, irrespective of which the remotest village you come from, because this was taught down to the elementary level. Terrorism is not an exception. Personal safety is not an exception. If someone can study from the remotest place of this country and become a surgeon, a lawyer, a doctor, name them, why can't you read yourself to safety? Personally, how long would you take to read this book? This book is a solution to all the problems that we have as a country. It has everything from the knee-jerk reaction that now the government is taking on
guns and
yes.
Guns. But before we come to that, there are others who argue that terrorism, what we're facing in the country today, is a societal problem because it is just another issue, for example, like corruption.
Yeah.
We know corruption is wrong, but we still engage in corruption. We know that, for example, the theory whereby the end justifies the means that has cropped in the minds of young Kenyans today. So is terrorism as a result of decayed morals, as a societal problem? Would you put it that way?
Of course, yes. Now, that I agree with, because terrorism is an easy way out for young people to seek an excuse to do crime. Because on the attributes of terrorism, we have attributes that terrorism would want to base their actions on. We've heard they go steal, they break on police stations and steal firearms and stuff. We've heard them carjacking lorries in Lamu and doing stuff. So that is just a normal criminal act that has been branded something else from now people from another country. You see, if only we can purpose to educate our people. Security is a collective bargain.
Okay.
It's a collective responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mwite Mureithi, a security researcher. For the interest of time, I'm being told we have to pay some bills. Of course, this is not a conversation we can end today. We need hours and hours on end. But at that particular point in time, we want to take a very short break. When I come back, we'll be here with the latest in the world of business. Stay with us.